వెయిటింగ్ ఫర్ నెల్లూరు ఐసీఐ అని వస్తుంది.
సార్ చూడండి సార్ ఇప్పుడు.
ఓకే.
అరుణ్ స్టార్ట్ చేస్తా.
Okay, sir. So, good evening all. So, I hope all of you are enjoying this lockdown. And I also hope this lockdown may not be extended further. Today we are having this webinar on drafting and presentation of appeals. I think this type of webinars will go larger reach, because if we have this seminar in our branch, maybe 40 or 50 people will come. But this type of seminars will go to more larger people, maybe not only Nellore members, although also all the members can do it. So now I request Chairman sir to take over this, to take over his opening remarks. Sir, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Arun. On behalf of the Nellore Committee of SIRC of ICAI, good evening and a warm welcome to my dear members for today's webinar on drafting and presenting of income tax appeals. It is a great pleasure for me to have an eminent speaker and also the Secretary of SIRC of ICAI, Dr. C.A. Abhishek Murli Garu, today with us to enlighten us on today's topic. On behalf of Nellore branch, I take this opportunity to thank Mr. Abhishek Garu for accepting our invitation and joining with us for today's webinar. As a part of our duty towards fighting COVID-19 virus, our Nellore branch members have collectively contributed a sum of rupees 4.17 lakhs to COVID-19 ICAI Relief Fund. For this, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all those members who generously accepted our president call to contribute to COVID-19 ICAI Relief Fund. Further, I extend my sincere gratitude to all those members who have contributed to PM and CM relief funds, and also the members who have directly contributing to the needy people. With this, I would also like to clarify, many of the members are expressing whether they will be getting a CPE credit for these webinars. I would like to clarify that you will only be getting an unstructured, even though it is an approved CPE program, the members will be only getting an unstructured credit by logging into your SSP portal and updating the webinar details. During the year 1920, many cases of best judgment assessment orders were passed by the income tax department for the cash deposits made during the demonetization period. And also with the introduction of faceless assessments, many disputes and ex parte assessments are likely to arise. So naturally, to safeguard our assessed interest, the need for filing an appeal with the CIT arises. With the amendment of section 250 of the Income Tax Act, even the CIT appeals is also going to be faceless.
Can you hear me, sir?
Maybe there is a network problem, sir.
Okay, I think with the chairman.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible? Okay. With this background, I request our branch treasurer, Lakshmi Prasanna Garu, to introduce our faculty to our members.
Good evening to all of you. We all know about C.A. Abhishek Murli Garu. Just I will introduce a few points about him. Dr. C.A. Abhishek Murli is a practicing chartered accountant at Chennai, who is currently the partner of Mrs. Victor Grace and Company, Chartered Accountants, and Secretary of SIRC of ICAI for 2020 and 2021. He also secured All India 5th rank in International Taxation Examinations conducted by CIOT the SRC of ICAI. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, madam. Please go on.
Yes.
Dr. C. Abhishek Murli is the youngest elected secretary of SRC of ICAI. He is an expert in direct taxation, international taxation, litigation or appeals, valuation, due diligence, and M&A. Dr. C. A. Abhishek Murli has conducted and spoken at more than 250 seminars on direct taxes in 2019. Dr. C. Abhishek Murli did his articleship training with PricewaterhouseCoopers in the Audit and Assurance Division. After qualifying as Chartered Accountant, he went on to work with KPMG in transaction advisory, mergers and acquisition on various national and international engagements. He has also completed his graduations and masters in commerce from Madras University, and he completed DISA from ICAI, CISA from ISA, CA, USA, and CIMA from CIMA London. Dr. C. A. Abhishek Murli also completed his advanced diploma in international taxation with CIOT. He has also qualified as director in Independent Directors Data Bank in online proficiency test. He have authored 5 books of professional interest and regularly contributed articles to online magazines of professional interest. He has been nominated to Corporate Laws and Corporate Governance Committee, Professional Development Committee, and Research Committee constituted by ICAI India. He has nominated as chairman of many committees constituted by SRC of ICAI. Some of them are Capital Markets and Investors Protection, Committee of Members Executive Committee, Direct Taxes Committee, Public Relations Committee, etc. Thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for a very wonderful introduction. Should I proceed with the presentation now?
Yes, sir. Please.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank the Nellore branch of SIRC of ICAI for giving me this opportunity to speak on appeals and revisions. As the chairman, C. Vamsi Krishna, rightly said, it's a very, very important topic. And in very short notice, we planned this meeting. So I'm very happy to say, despite that, we have got a very good response. I'd also like to thank CA Arun Kumar, Secretary, and CA Sarabhu Lakshmi Prasanna, ma'am, for a very wonderful introduction also. Thank you so much, ma'am. So I'll straight away get into the topic. Let me just share my screen. So today I'll be speaking on income tax appeals before the CIT, ITAT, and revisions. As you all are aware, and as the chairman rightly said, appeals is going to become a very, very important topic over the period of time. The cash deposit cases, that is demonetization cases, or as the department calls it, OCM cases, and even given the fact that we are having a COVID lockdown now, I expect there will be a short-term liquidity crisis that many of our clients or many businesses are facing. Owing to this, they may not find it that easy to just say, pay my taxes, I want a peace of mind, so I surrender, I just pay the tax and I'll continue my business. That sort of approach may no longer be possible, where they may prefer now, I'd rather fight the case. It's going to cost me lesser to fight it, so I'm going to choose the option of fighting the case. That's the second important point why appeals are becoming important. And the third one, as the chairman rightly said, e-assessment. At a time where when we have face-to-face assessment itself, we are not able to convince the assessing officer and explain to him why this point should be accepted or why no addition should be made. Naturally, when you suddenly have only a computer facing you and your assessing officer for your assessee who is based in, say, Nellore or Chennai or Bangalore or Cochin In any of these places, you will never have an officer from that same place. He'll be assessed by someone in Jharkhand, Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, Lucknow, anywhere. You don't know. So you are only going to be facing a computer and you're going to be trying to explain why your assessee's case should stand and why you're representing against the department's option to they may want to add the income. So if time permits, I will touch on e-assessment proceedings a little later in the presentation also. But the point is, it is a new process. It is maybe a challenging process, little bit more complex than face-to-face assessment. So there are bound to be initial teething difficulties, which means the difficulty is going to be there in representing the cases. Some clients that I represent, like IT companies, have very, very complex agreements. So if I have to explain that across the table itself, it takes me time. And then the assessing officer understands the issue and they use their wisdom in deciding in favor or against whatever. But that opportunity to explain is there when you're there face to face. The moment that moves to the online platform, there is going to be difficulties. There are going to be technical difficulties. Will you be able to upload bank statements? Today, we know when it comes to scrutiny assessment, the sort of details the department sometimes asks, give me all your books of accounts, give me your bank statements, give me all the land agreements that you have. It may be 40 years old, 50 years old, it may be 100 pages, 200 pages. No, it's okay, you please give it to me. So we have to go submit it, we put a binder, 2-3 volumes, we go and give it. But when it becomes e-assessment, you have to scan each page. The document has to be clear. It has to be uploadable. They have a space limit, only 5 MB, only 10 MB, only 9 documents. Like that, there are certain limitations. So when all this comes together, definitely there are going to be situations where even the case genuinely in your favor, it may not work out as imagined. So in these cases, instead of simply giving up and saying, let's pay the tax, it is important for all of us to go on appeals. And given the sudden increase in number that we are expecting, this is a very, very important topic. So let's start off. When it comes to the Income Tax Act, the assessee and their department broadly, each of them have 3 remedies. The first remedy to the assessee is his rectification under section 154, where there is an error apparent on the record. Maybe in the assessment order, instead of adding 1,000 rupees, the assessing officer by mistake he typed 1 lakh. This is an error apparent on the record. So you may go for a rectification under section 154. The second remedy is an appeal, where I am aggrieved by the order of the assessing officer. I may choose to go on an appeal to the CIT appeals or the ITAT as may be applicable. The third remedy for the assessee is revision, a revisionary power by the administrative commissioner, not the CIT appeals, the administrative commissioner, normally the principal commissioner of income tax. You as an assessee may apply for a revision under section 264. When you go for this revision, you waive your right of appeal. I will touch upon this again later in the presentation. Similarly, the department also has 3 remedies. They have the same rectification under section 154, but unlike appeal, the assessee has the power to an appeal to a CIT appeals. The assessing officer cannot appeal against his own order. Therefore, they don't have appeal. They have reopening of an assessment under section 147. And they have a revision under section 263, where it is erroneous and prejudicial to the interest of the revenue. The administrative commissioner may seek a revision under section 263. This is the broad income tax appeal process. As you may see, there are 4 stages, you may say. The first one is the assessing officer, after which, if you are aggrieved, you can go to the CIT appeals, the commissioner appeals. If you are aggrieved with that, the next stage you go is the income tax appellate tribunal. And finally, even if you are aggrieved by the ITAT's order, you can go to a high court or Supreme Court. But the catch is, it has to be a substantial question of law involved. Therefore, the ITAT is the final fact-finding authority as far as the Income Tax Act is concerned. So what is an appeal? The basic question, what is an appeal? We all know the simple meaning is, if I'm aggrieved by something, I go on appeal against whatever I'm aggrieved by. But what is critical to understand in the Income Tax Act is that your appeal is a statutory right. It is not an inherent right, which means just because I am aggrieved, I cannot go on an appeal. It has to be specified in the act, and section 246A specifies what are the sections under which you can go on appeal against to the CIT appeals. Therefore, if a scenario arises, I am aggrieved by the behavior of the assessing officer, he was rude to me or he was harsh, he did not accept my submissions, that is not an order. I cannot go on appeal just because his behavior was aggrieving me. So it has to be an order I am aggrieved by, and that comes out clearly. It comes out clearly in the act and under section 246A. So it is not an inherent right, it is provided by the law. The next point, I have written it here. It says it's important to have a strategy for appeal matters. I'll explain why later as we progress in the presentation. As I said, it is a statutory right. The right of appeal is a statutory right. And section 246A specifies what is the rights on what sections I can go on appeal to the CIT appeals at the first stage. There's an order which is adverse to my view that is passed by the assessing officer. I choose to go on appeal. So what and all can I go on appeal against? If you look at section 246A, it has multiple sections, subsection A, B, C, D, E, F, F, G, G, like this it goes on almost to the end of KK. So almost 36 to 40 sections are there on which I can go. So your question is, so each time I have to go and check, is it? Yes, each time you have to go and check. But luckily for us, if we read the first line itself, it is enough. What does the first line say? An order against the assessee where the assessee denies his liability to be assessed under the act or is aggrieved by any of these following orders, then he can go on an appeal. That's it, full stop. So under the act, if I'm denying my liability to be assessed or I'm aggrieved by an order, then straight away I can go on appeal. So the only requirement is I have to be aggrieved. The second is it has to be an order. So where there is a communication, there's an order, not an order, then I cannot go on appeal against that alone. This is the broad form. When you're going on CIT appeals, on an appeal to the CIT appeals, these are the documents that you have to enclose. While earlier, the erstwhile Form 35 was a physical form, for the last few years, it is an online form. On the same income tax portal where we are logging in, we have to log in and choose, select forms, submission of forms, submit IT returns, submit forms, IT forms will be there. In that, we have to go and select Form 35, where you have the list of details that you need to submit when you are going on appeal. Along with this form, you should also enclose the statement of facts and the grounds of appeal, along with the challan of fees paid. Now, the challan of fees, as far as your CIT appeals is concerned, it's maximum of ₹1,000 only. It does not matter. But when it comes to your ITAT, the maximum becomes ₹10,000 for you to pay your challan to go on the appeal. So here some critical points are there. The question will be asked, the appeal fees, how do I pay it? It says where your assessment relates to an income up to this certain amount, let's say 2,50,000, then your appeal fees is ₹500. If it goes between 2,50,000 to 5 lakhs, the appeal fees is a little bit more than that. And if it is more than 5 lakhs, it is capped at ₹1,000 as far as CIT appeals is concerned. Similarly, you have certain rules for the ITAT also. But the critical point here is it says where the addition or the agreement relates to an assessment. So if you are on appeal on penalty, then in that case, what fee is payable by you? As I said, at CIT appeals, when the maximum is 1,000, it does not pinch that much. But when it comes to ITAT, the fees is 10,000. But if you are on appeal at the ITAT, let's say on a miscellaneous appeal, or against any penalty order, or in any assessment or any appeal that does not relate to an assessment. For example, I'm aggrieved by a 263 order. I want to go on appeal against that. In all of these cases, the appeal fees that need to be paid is a mere 500 only. So that is the distinction between your CIT appeals and ITAT as far as the fees are concerned. Now let us understand how to draft your statement of facts. What comes out in your statement of facts? Your statement of facts details in a very, very detailed format what and all happened in your case. Here, you will have to state the assessee is an assessee under the following jurisdiction. He filed his return on so and so date. He subsequently revised his return. Then he received a notice on this date. A scrutiny assessment was initiated on so and so date. On this date, I submitted the following documents. The assessing officer expected these much detail. So almost it is like a live commentary that you're giving on whatever happened in the past. So your statement of facts has to be a detailed explanation of what and all happened in the course of your assessment that you are aggrieved by. Then you come to the grounds of appeal. Now the grounds of appeal is exactly inverse of your statement of facts. Where your statement of facts was very detailed and very robust, your grounds of appeal on the other hand is going to be simplified. It should be a single line or 2 lines only, stating only what points you are aggrieved by. Therefore, you will state the assessee is aggrieved by the order of the assessing officer as it is incorrect and opposed to law. Next point, why is it opposed to law? The assessing officer ought to have considered the submission made by the assessee of his reinvestment under section 54. So that's all. You are not explaining, I submitted on so date, he did not consider, then again I gave the document, but assessing officer rejected, he has not considered it even though I have submitted it. All that will come in your statement of facts. The grounds of appeal will be a single line saying that assessing officer has failed to consider the document already submitted by the assessee. That's it. So your statement of facts is going to be a robust and detailed statement, while your grounds of appeal is going to be a small, minimum, single line document where you simply talk about the issue at hand. Now, few practical issues that you may face while doing this e-form. As I said, when it was a physical form, you did not have any character limit. The moment it comes to this e-form, in the income tax website, unfortunately, there are certain character limitations. How many how many letters you can type, etc. And I think in as far as your CIT appeals is concerned, there is a limitation of only 1,000 words. So suppose I am going on appeal on a single ground, then I can easily fit it within 1,000 words. But if I have 10 or 12 or 15 grounds, then what happens? I will not be able to fit my entire statement into that. So what do I do in these sort of scenarios? When it comes to your form 35, that is an online form, you have basically 3 things where you can submit in the last. You have to upload your documents. You have to upload your demand notice for the assessment order. You have to upload your assessment order itself, no matter how many pages it is. Some of you may have been dealing with these penny stock cases where the assessment order itself runs into 80-90 pages. So you are expected to scan all of it and upload it. So that is one of the requirements also. So just a second, excuse me. Yes, I apologize. As I said, you have to upload your assessment order also along with your demand notice. Now the third attachment window will be open. Any other documents that you want to upload. So generally, even though you have a space to type out your statement of facts and your grounds of appeal, you have a window where you can upload other documents. As a rule, generally I upload all my statement of facts and grounds of appeal. I type it out in Word, make it into a PDF format and upload the same here, so that it's easier both for the assessing officer as well as me to upload the documents. Now, the critical point here is sometimes your commissioner of appeals, he may prefer to have a physical copy also. So in case you feel it is better to give a physical copy, file it online and also give a physical copy. One more point of contention that commonly people face when it comes to this online form 35 form is that there is a place where it says, are you submitting any other additional evidence? Now, sometimes it is very obvious what additional evidence you are giving. Let us say I gave it before the assessing officer, or I did not give it before the assessing officer, I have to give it now. And I'm going on appeal because of that point. For example, I recently handled a case for a MNC where the assessee had purchased a machinery and he had claimed additional depreciation on the same. And what happened is, during the course of the assessment, the assessing officer wanted the invoice copy. There was floods in Chennai that year, and the entire factory of the assessee was damaged. So he requested 2 weeks time so that he can get a copy of the invoice and give it. But before the assessee could get the invoice copy, the assessing officer passed the order. When we went on appeal in this case, it was very clear to us why we are going on appeal, because the additional evidence of that invoice we were not able to furnish there. We are furnishing it now in appeal. So we were able to fill that point. But in a scenario where during the course of your appeal proceedings, the CIT appeal says, what is this? I want to see the documents. You cannot say, no, I will not show you. Already I showed the assessing officer, or he did not ask me. You cannot ask. You cannot say that. So in those scenarios, you have to submit the document. So questions are arising whether Form 35 we have to preempt. What will the CIT appeals ask from me? Do I have to fill that all in here? Generally, what we fill here is, we fill as advised by the auditor or lawyer. It will be produced in the course of the assessment or course of the appeal. Once you do that, you leave it open-ended for you to give it anytime in the appeal. So where you have additional documents that are submitted, if any, that window is there in Form 35 form, fill saying that it will be submitted on the advice of my representative during the course of the appeal. So that way you are protecting yourselves without giving wrong information also. The next important point, as you saw in the earlier slide, when do you go on appeal? All these documents I told you have to submit. But when do you have to go on appeal? An appeal has to be gone against the adverse order within 30 days from the date of that order. Now, 2 points. I said date of the order. Is that correct? No, because date of the order can be any date. But what matters is the date of receipt of the order. So the critical point here is the date you receive the order, only from that date onwards that 30 days starts counting. Now, why is this so important? Is that in the past, now that it has all become computerized, this has reduced. But where certain places, I think the smaller Mofussil cities, still sometimes it is not computerized. Assessment is happening in hard copy format only still. Where that is happening, very commonly you see the assessment is passed on a much later date, but it is predated as if it was done much earlier. And if you are getting the order on the date it is actually passed, already 30 days are over from the date of the assessment order, from the date you actually receive it. So it is from the date of receipt that you have to reckon it. Now, another critical point I may point out, you are aware that there is this Vivad Se Vishwa scheme that is active now, and your clients may be interested in taking up this scheme. Very often we get questions in the programs asking, can I do it in this case? I have not filed an appeal. Is it possible for me to file an appeal now? Will it still be counted? The act very clearly states that the Vivad Se Vishwas Act, what it says is, on 1st February, if you have any appeal pending before the appellate authority, you are eligible for the scheme. Or if you have time to file the appeal, for example, I received the order on 31st January. The scheme was announced on 1st February. It's impossible for me to have gone on appeal. I did not preempt the scheme. But anyway, I would have gone on appeal. So what they're saying, if you have this 30 days time, you can still go on appeal. Now, one critical point here is what you have to consider the date. 30 days, not from the receipt of only the assessment order, but also the demand notice. So if in your assessee's case, you have not received a demand notice, then the date you receive the demand notice, your 30 days can be started from then. So you may be able to find eligibility under this scheme by using this. So if you have not received the demand notice, please ask for the demand notice and then choose to go under the scheme. So you'll still be eligible for the scheme. What are some key matters of discussion? The first one is continuation of delay. Now the CIT appeals and the ITAT, both of them have very wide-ranging powers. The first important power is condonation of delay. As I said, you have to file the appeal in case of CIT appeals 30 days from the date of the receipt of order. When it comes to ITAT, you have to go within 60 days from the receipt of the order of the Commissioner of Appeals. When he passes the order, against that you have to go within 60 days. What if I have given it on 61st day or the 31st day for CIT appeals? You have to file for a condonation of delay. In the current form 35, there it says the online form 35, you can file it there itself. You have to give, is there any condonation or is there any delay in filing the appeal? You have to select yes. Your reason for the delay, you have to fill it there. And then your CIT appeals, he will consider the case, yes or no, how many days delay, all that they will examine. When it comes to ITAT, you have to file it and you have to file an affidavit along with your appeal, stating the reason why there is a delay in filing the appeal. Now here what is an interesting point is that how many days can be condoned. That's a very, very interesting point. And I'll give you some facts of some actual case studies of what happened. Now you may say that whatever is reasonable, the power of the CIT appeals or the ITAT is wide ranging. They can condone how much ever they want. But does that mean they will condone how much ever they want? They expect a sufficient and reasonable cause to be there of the delay. There are times where I've got a delay of almost 8 to 10 years, 8 to 10 years condoned. It was condoned on the spot without going into too much detail after I was able to explain to the judges over there. But at the same time, I have seen where other auditors and other lawyers, a delay of even 10 days has been struck down. The example is that in this case that I'm talking about 10 days, what happened is the auditor in that case, he had prepared all the documentation for the appeal. He told the assessee, here you go, I am traveling, I'm going on a religious pilgrimage. We have 28 days time for the appeal still. What you do is, please get the signature from your wife and go and file it. Go and file it at the ITAT office. He said, yes, sir, I will do it. Our auditor had gone on his pilgrimage. Assessee has taken the documents and he has forgotten. The auditor comes back after 30 days and then he asks the assessee finally, did you file the appeal? What happened? Oh, no, I forgot, sir. He said, why? What happened? Please go and file it. And the assessee went and he filed the appeal. He had to file an affidavit also along with that saying condonation of delay. Unfortunately, in that case, when the judges took up the case for the hearing, they said, all the documents, everything that you have submitted, everything is dated almost 28 days before. Why did you not submit? He said, no, sir, I forgot. Here the ITAT held, you have been negligent. You have not missed out. There is no sufficient cause you are able to display when there is negligence. So just a mere 10 days delay, I am not going to allow. At the same time, I've got a 8-year, 9-year, 10-year delay also condoned. So what is important is you're able to display sufficient cause and sufficient reason whenever you're asking for a condonation of delay. So therefore, condonation of delay is a discretionary power. You cannot just expect to walk in and expect them to condone the delay. So if there is any delay, and however friendly the officer may be or commissioner may be or known to you or however genuine the reason may be, don't take it lightly. Prepare the right documents to prove that there is a sufficient cause of the delay. Power of enhancement. Now this is the most critical point when it comes to your CIT appeals. When you go on an appeal, and before I proceed with this, I'll make a point that I'll be covering both ITAT and CIT appeals simultaneously so that we are able to appreciate why each provision is different from each other. I'll touch upon the specific aspects of ITAT as the presentation goes on, but we will be able to understand what is the difference between the CIT appeals and ITAT as I present. So let's come to the power of enhancement. This is a unique power that is granted only to the CIT appeals. Even though the ITAT is a higher appellate authority, they do not have this power. What does that mean? It means when I go on appeal against the order that is adverse or I am aggrieved by, in those cases, If the CIT appeals finds something that requires more addition to be done, assessing officer has added 100, I am aggrieved. I go on appeal. CIT appeals goes through the documents. No, he's added 100. Actually, he should have added 500. He can add 500 over here. And that power of enhancement only the CIT appeal has. Because if I go to the ITAT, I can never be worse off. The ITAT does not have the power of enhancement. Why does the CIT have such a power? There is a case called Ram Bahadur Hardut Roy. It's a 1938 case where the Supreme Court held that the CIT appeals position is unique. The department cannot go on appeal against its own order. Therefore, when an assessee goes on appeal on an order he is aggrieved by, the CIT is discharged with an onus to look at the broader interest and not just have a narrow-minded look on that issue alone. So if he finds there is any defrauding of the revenue or any mistake by the assessing officer, then he can step in there and correct that. He can get into the shoes of the assessing officer and correct it over there. Now another critical point comes up here. Up to what extent do they have the power of enhancement? Now, power of enhancement, there is an argument saying that let's take a scenario where I am aggrieved by the order of the assessing officer, where he has added some income in my salary. In my salary income, he has added something. He has disallowed some allowance that I have claimed. Now I go on appeal against that, saying that I disagree with that. In the course of the appeal, while going through the documents, your CIT appeals, he says, give me your bank statements. I want to see if you actually got the credit of the salary. So you show it to him. He's going through the bank statements. That time, suddenly he sees you have huge savings bank interest, 1 lakh rupees savings bank interest. And he looks at your return. You have not admitted that savings bank interest in your income from other sources. Now, the question is raised. Can your CIT appeals add that 1 lakh now? This is where it gets interesting. We all know we follow the order of the Supreme Court because that should be binding on everybody. But we follow the order of the Supreme Court not because it's correct, but because it is final. Having said that, in this issue, there is a divergent view. In CIT versus Kanpur Coal Syndicate, the Supreme Court held that the CIT's power is limitless. He can go into any head of income wherever he finds that there is some mistake or there is a miss out or the assessee has defrauded, anything like that. So he can enhance in any head of income. Whereas in Shapurji Palonji, the Supreme Court held that you can only restrict to the subject matter of appeal. Assessee is on appeal against salary only. Then you should retain your discussions only to salary. You cannot go to other heads of income. If you want, you do 148 assessment. If you want, you do 263. Don't do it in your appeal is what they held in Shapurji Palonji. But this is that interesting issue where you have a divergent view of the Supreme Court itself. Both the cases are by the Supreme Court. And this is why it brings me to that point where I mentioned at the start. Appeal is a strategy. You have to plan. And it reminds me of this joke where this farmer, he has a poultry farm, has many birds around him. And a person comes to evaluate that from the cruelty of animals. He comes to check whether the animals are maintained correctly. He says, what are you feeding these birds? He said, sir, we are giving grains, we are giving rice, etc. No, you are underfeeding the birds. I am putting a fine on you of rupees 1 lakh. 6 months later, the same officer, he comes again to the farm. What are you feeding the birds, Mr. Farmer? Farmer said, sir, we are giving pista, badam, cashew nuts, all these very, very rich dry fruits we are giving. So, no, you are overfeeding the birds. So, I'm going to issue a fine on you of 1 lakh. Then again, after 12 months, that same officer comes. He says, what are you feeding the birds? He said, sir, we don't feed the birds anything. We give them a bata every day of 100 rupees. They themselves go to the shop, they buy whatever they want to eat, they eat and they come back. So this time, this is exactly the sort of situation we are in when it comes to these Supreme Court decisions, where you have a divergence in views. Or if you say one thing, they will say the other thing. If you say the other thing, they'll come back to this. So how do you manage which case to select is a strategy. For example, in the ITAT, if there is a favorable decision by a judge who is sitting for your case, you might rely on that decision, it will be useful for you. But if there is a decision by the judge that is against you, it is better you take an adjournment in those cases. So this is where strategy and experience comes in when it comes to managing your appeals. The next point is withdrawal of appeal and ex parte of dismissal. Now, when it comes to an appeal, let's take the same scenario that we were discussing earlier. Salaries, there is an addition made by the assessing officer, and you go on appeal. Before it is taken up for hearing, you remember that you have forgotten to offer your interest in your income from other sources. So you decide, now I have learned they have the power of enhancement. The risk is there that they may enhance. So I'll have to pay more tax, more interest. Better I go and withdraw the appeal. So can I withdraw an appeal? So there's a case, 1967 case called Nawab Shah Khan, CIT versus Nawab Shah Khan, where in this case the Supreme Court held that withdrawal of appeal can no longer be done by the assessee. It is again a discretionary power given to the CIT appeals. Therefore, whether he is going to enhance or not, we don't know. But by putting that request to withdraw the appeal, definitely he is going to think there is something fishy. So you don't have the power to say, no, you have to withdraw. I don't want to fight the appeal. It is left to the discretion of the CIT appeals. That is why it is a strategy game when it comes to the CIT appeals. When it comes to ITAT, you can close your eyes and go on appeal because you know that you can't be in a worse position. But when it comes to the CIT appeals, very carefully draft your grounds of appeal and your statement of facts because the impact and ramifications can be wider. What is ex parte dismissal? Now, when it comes to ex parte dismissal, the point is basically you have a hearing, you have failed to appear in that hearing. You have failed to appear in the hearing. So in that case, what happens? Maybe you are asking for an adjournment. You have given the adjournment with a genuine reason. Genuine reason. I am not in station, so I'm giving the adjournment. But the CIT appeals, he has not seen your adjournment, or despite seeing the adjournment, he has decided that he is going to pass the order. So he passes an ex parte order. So in these cases, do we have any sort of resolve or any sort of solution that we can ask him to rehear the case? When it comes to your CIT appeals, you don't have a concept called miscellaneous appeal or a miscellaneous application. That is, even if it is dismissed ex parte, however genuine the reason, your solution is only an appeal to the ITAT. But when it comes to the ITAT, let's say there is a hearing scheduled on a certain day. For whatever reason, you are not able to go for the hearing. They hear it on that day and they say dismissed against the assessee because nobody has come to represent him. Then in those cases, you can file a miscellaneous appeal and request them to rehear the matter, saying an opportunity was denied to me. But when it comes to the CIT appeals, you don't have this concept of a miscellaneous appeal or a miscellaneous application. The next point is additional evidence or alternate grounds. Let us take a scenario where you are on appeal. The same example again, I gave an example where I represented a multinational company. We submitted the documents, everything. Assessing officer wanted an invoice copy of a new plant and machinery added. I said I will give the same, but before I could submit it, he has already passed the order. So in the appeal, I am filing an additional evidence. So now there is a specific rule that deals with additional evidence as far as appeals are concerned. And this is called Rule 46A. It is a very important rule which has 4 criteria when additional evidence should be accepted. It says 4 rules. They are very simple. But the logic is that where the assessee is denied from producing the additional evidence, I am going and telling the officer, sir, please take this. This is the invoice. He says, no, I am not going to take it. Tomorrow I am going to pass the assessment order. Where the assessee is denied. Next, where the assessee for sufficient reason was unable to produce. I said, in my case, there was a flood in the factory. It has affected. All the documents are damaged. I have to procure a duplicate copy of the invoice. Give me 1 week time, 2 weeks time, I will get it. But before that, order is passed. So I am prevented by sufficient cause from producing the document. Or the assessing officer has refused to hear the matter. So in these cases, additional evidence may be accepted and admitted. Even though I am saying these 4 points, what is important to note is at the CIT appeals level, they are fairly liberal. The department, they take additional evidence. They don't create too much fuss unless it's a very obvious case where you should have produced, you have not produced. Unless in those specific cases, they are liberal with admitting additional evidence. But the critical point when it comes to additional evidence is you cannot, let's take a scenario where you have an issue with the assessing officer, you do not get along with that person. You both have a fight or you both have a disagreement, and he makes the addition, you are aggrieved, or you say, you know what, you do whatever you want, I'll take care in appeal, and you decide to go on appeal. And at the stage of the CIT appeals, you give the documents saying additional evidence, sir, please admit I was prevented by sufficient cause, and you give the documents there. You must remember, when it comes to any additional evidence, the CIT appeals cannot simply dispose of it himself. What he will do is he will send a remand report. What is this remand report? He'll write a letter to the same assessing officer saying that this assessee has come on appeal on these grounds, and while he is coming on these grounds, he wants these additional evidences to be admitted. Please tell us, give me comments as to whether I should admit the additional evidence, and if I admit, what are your points on that? Then the assessing officer will say, no, I gave him an opportunity. Even though I gave, he said, no, I'll take care in appeals, and he did not appear at all. You see the documents. I posted the hearing 7 times. He has come only 1 time. So therefore, it is clearly a negligent case. It's not a case of additional evidence. Like that, they will give comments. Or if it is a genuine case, they will examine whatever additional evidences you are giving, and they will submit a report to the CIT appeals. The CIT appeals is bound to share the report with you. It is called a remand report. He will share this report with you. And you, as an assessee here who's on appeal, you have the right to respond to that report. You have a right to respond to the remand report, saying, I agree with whatever submissions the assessing officer has said, or I disagree, it is incorrect what they are saying. Then the CIT appeals will use his wisdom, his knowledge, his experience to examine the issue again. So he has to take the views of the assessing officer. The same officer who passed the adverse order will share his views on the additional evidence that you are going on appeal about now. Now, what about additional and alternate grounds? And what about additional evidence when it comes to the ITAT? Now, the ITAT has the power of something called set aside. This set aside power is not there with the CIT appeals. As I said, when it comes to additional evidence, the CIT appeals cannot say, okay, let it be re-examined. Let the entire case be re-examined by the assessing officer. He cannot send back the file. This power used to exist till the late 1990s when they decided to change it, because they felt very often people were using it as a time to buy time. They'll go on appeal, they'll wait for some time, then they'll ask for remand. Once the junior officer is transferred, or when the assessing officer is transferred, they'll bring the case back, they'll hear it. So these sort of circumstances were happening. So they decided, let us remove the power of set aside for the CIT appeals. But the ITAT has the power of set aside. So if you introduce an additional evidence at the ITAT stage, even though if they want, they can examine the case. Normally what they will do is they will set it aside to the assessing officer or the CIT appeals, whoever should have admitted that evidence and has not considered it. They will say, we'll send it back to him, let him re-examine, and you come back through the usual chain on appeal back to us if you are aggrieved further. So that is the power that the ITAT has. Now, what is an additional or an alternate ground? Let us take a scenario where it is a capital gains issue. You are having a division of view with the assessing officer regarding the cost of acquisition. What you are saying? You are saying the sale consideration is 50 lakhs. Cost of acquisition is also 50 lakhs. Therefore, taxable capital gains is 0. Your assessing officer is saying sale consideration is 50 lakhs. But in my view, cost of acquisition is only 25 lakhs. Therefore, taxable capital gains is still 25 lakhs, he is saying. Now, in this case, let us take a hypothetical situation that even though this has happened, you have made a reinvestment. So you can make a claim under section 54 also if you want of 25 lakhs. But you did not do that at the time of filing the return of income because you thought the cost of acquisition will be accepted. It is already covering whatever is my sale consideration, hence no capital gains. When capital gains is zero, I cannot say that I have reinvested under 54. So I cannot, at the time of filing the return of income, do this. But in the course of the appeal, what happens is they are saying, no, cost of acquisition is only 25, it is not 50. Then at that stage, can I state that I've reinvested under 54? Even if you don't accept my cost of acquisition, please accept my reinvestment value. Anyway, the taxable capital gains will be nil in my case. So in these sort of scenarios, what do we do? Is it acceptable to do that? Now, commonly, the income tax uses one case called Godse India, a Supreme Court decision, where they say that you cannot make any alternative grounds at a later stage. You should have done it before the assessing officer itself. But in many cases, it is impossible for you to do it. What they are saying, you should have done it either before the assessing officer, or you should have done it at the time of filing the return. You should have filed a revised return. Earlier revised return, the time was endless, but you're all aware, since 2 years back, you can no longer file a revised return beyond the due date. You can never file a belated return beyond that due date also. So in these sort of scenarios, there's going to be impossibility of complaints. I have filed my return expecting that you will accept my cost of acquisition. Once you change your stance, saying cost of acquisition only 25 lakhs, I should be allowed to submit. Alternatively, anyway, I have reinvested under 54. So you have to consider that my capital gains will be nil. Go say India, they said, no, you should have filed revised return. So there are other cases where assessees went on appeal saying that it is impossible for me to comply. I cannot simply file a revised return. Hence, alternative grounds should be accepted at any appellate stage, especially ITAT. So in Keshav Mills or National Thermal Power, it is a 1998 case, but it is still holding good, where it says that your ITAT has the power to accept alternate grounds even at that stage, assuming you didn't raise it before the assessing officer. Assume you didn't raise it before the CIT appeals. Can I finally raise it against ITAT? After 3 stages, I'm coming here and telling, yes, in National Thermal Power and Keshav Mills, ITAT is saying, or the Supreme Court is saying, even at the ITAT stage, even though it is the final stage, you can ask for alternate grounds to be accepted there also. Adjournments, as I already touched upon this, it is a strategic decision. Sometimes genuinely you ask for adjournments. Sometimes you may have certain judges at the ITAT level or at the CIT level who may not be in your favor, or there may be a case that is pending which could end up turning the case in your favor. In these cases, you can take adjournments. It is a strategic decision. In some cases, I cannot appear. Genuine cases, maybe somebody died in the family, or maybe there's an emergency in the family, or for genuine reason I am traveling and the date is scheduled at a very short time, I am not able to appear. That's a genuine case. A strategic case is when you think the judge who's sitting on the case may not be in your favor. You can strategically take an adjournment also. As it is commonly said, a good lawyer, he knows the law, but a great lawyer, he knows the judge. So you have to plan your adjournments, you have to plan your appeal so that you are able to appease the judge. Repeatedly, my seniors used to tell me when I used to study for my law, my senior, who's now a judge herself, she used to say, it is okay, Abhishek, if you lose the case, don't lose the judge, because that same judge is going to be sitting on your cases repeatedly. So if you lose your cool, you lose your temperament, and you say that, no, you're wrong, and you talk in a very rude manner to him, he'll forget that case. Maybe he'll dismiss that case, or maybe he'll give it in your favor also. But he'll remember your temperament. He'll remember how you spoke rudely to him. Never in his life, next cases, he'll give in your favor. So always try to please that judge and try to ensure that when you plan your adjournments, you plan such that you know who is the sitting member for your case. Next point is written submissions. As I said, when it comes to your appeal, you file your Form 35, you file your statement of facts, you file your grounds of appeal, and your challan, and that is for the filing. When the appeal is going on, generally the CIT appeals expects something called a written submissions, where you again write out the issues of the case, and here you will bring out the case laws, what cases are in your favor, what cases are against the department. All these cases you will bring out in your written submissions, and based on these written submissions and your statement of facts and grounds of appeal, all these three things they look together, and then they will decide the case either in your favor or against your favor. When it comes to ITAT, question comes up of paper book or written submissions. There is called a paper book where I may submit my documents. How much paper book can I give and how much can they accept? Now, this question came up especially after a case where the Big Four were handling for a multinational. And generally, what the Big Four do is that they compile a lot of information when they are going on appeal. So the judge at the ITAT stage, you should remember, the judge sits on 40 to 50 cases on a daily basis. So it is going to be impossible for him to go through all the documents that you are giving. So you must give it to them in an understandable format, in a very readable format for them. Sometimes some people, when they're going on appeal, they give mountains of books. Paper book, they'll give 5 books, and then they will say, you have not considered my submission as per the paper book, so I'm going on appeal to the High Court. What was finally held is that whenever you're making a written submission or whenever you're submitting a paper book, only if you point out to the point and you discuss it, only then it's considered to be argued. Otherwise, you cannot say, Your Lordship, you have missed out the point. If you see my paper book number 85, page number 993, in the third paragraph on the fourth line, I have mentioned this point, but you have not even considered it. Therefore, you are wrong. This repeatedly was happening. So the courts took a view that where large paper books or large written submissions are submitted, then the assessee has to specifically point out that point and discuss that point. Without discussing it, he cannot simply raise saying that that was not considered. The next is a proceedings sheet. It's a very simple point actually, but it has a large effect. The reason is when it comes to your income tax proceedings, you're all aware that when you finish your hearing, your assessing officer or your CIT appeals, whoever it is, they will take a signature from you from a date saying what and all happened on that date of hearing. The questions arise whether you as an assessee, do you maintain any proceeding sheet? Generally, people don't do it, but as a rule, in my office, we are maintaining this proceeding sheet, because what happens sometimes is where the cases or the sort of aggressive targets sometimes officers and commissioners have today. They are saying that a hearing did not happen, or I'll give you a practical scenario. In my case, there was an appeal which was scheduled for me on a certain time at a certain date. I was there. I was waiting outside the commissioner's room, but unfortunately, there was another department get together. So all the commissioners that day, everyone went for that get together because somebody, a very senior official, was having a farewell. In this case, later on, it came to light for almost all the people who had come to appear on that date. The commissioner has forgotten that he was there at the farewell, and he has issued an ex parte order saying nobody has appeared. Now, people, what will happen is by the time this order comes, it's almost 3 or 4 months after that appearance date. You forget. You think that genuinely I have only missed it. But if you maintain a sheet saying that no, on this date I went there, at this time I went to meet the commissioner appeals, but he was in a farewell for a principal chief commissioner. Therefore, he did not come back. I was waiting for 2 hours. If you have maintained that sheet by yourself saying that I went on so and so date, these are the documents I submitted, the officer was not there, so I gave it in tapal. So these sort of submissions have to be maintained by you. It is very useful for you in the course of your appeal. Now let us come to stay petitions. It's a very, very important aspect, mostly because of a very contentious issue. Let me discuss that. You're all aware that now a stay is given or an automatic stay is given if you pay 20% of your tax when you're going on an appeal. If you don't pay 20% or you're not going on appeal, you're expected to pay 100%. Now questions are raised. Do I have to pay 20%? Is there any way for me to go on an appeal without paying 20%? Now you look at the Honorable Finance Minister's address at the time. He said it was now 20%. When he made the announcement, they said 15%. If you pay, automatic stay is given. He did not say that if you don't pay, no stay will be given. He said if you pay, automatic stay will be given. But today, that is how the department are interpreting it. They say that if you have not paid tax, if you don't pay that 20%, that means they will not give you a stay. They can proceed by freezing your bank accounts. They can recover against your assets, etc. So how should you plan your stay petitions? If you are on appeal before the CIT appeals and you have paid the 20%, you are eligible for the automatic stay. Suppose it's a case, let's assume, very adverse order that you cannot even pay. For example, there was a case that we had handled where there was a township. The assessee had entered into an agreement with a builder. Now, for whatever reason, the economy collapsed at the time, the real estate market collapsed. So the township was not able to be completed. The original agreement, what it stated was that irrespective of whether the township is completed or not, within 4 years, the assessee should get X amount of money back from the builder. But naturally, the builder could not even build, let alone sell the apartments or sell the flats. So he could not repay the assessee. So they entered into another addendum later on saying that this is fine. We cannot collect. Whenever you collect, you give me the money. But the assessing officer refused to consider that. The assessing officer said, as per the original agreement, you should have already got the money. So I am going to assess you as if you have got the entire money. Now, several crores of money are involved here. And the tax itself, 30% of tax runs into several crores again. Now, can the assessee actually pay this amount? He has to take a stay petition. But even the 20% seems to be a very large amount for him because he has not received any money yet from the builder. But it has been assessed by the income tax. In these cases, there are only two avenues the assessee has. He either approaches the administrative commissioner and requests them for assistance because the power of stay exists with the assessing officer also. He has a discretionary power to give the stay. But if he does not give that stay, you can also file a stay with the CIT appeals and request him to give a stay in this case till the disposal of the appeal. The critical point here to note is that suppose you lose the case before the CIT appeals, then your entire 100% of the tax becomes due. Even if you go on appeal to the ITAT, your entire 100% tax becomes due. Hence, when you are going to the ITAT in these cases, you have to make a separate stay petition. And how the stay petition happens is as if it is a separate hearing. You have to explain to the judges of the ITAT as to why they have to grant you the stay. You have to give them a reasonable precaution or reasonable assurance saying that you will give the money. Or they may give you conditions saying you have to pay 40% of the tax, you have to pay 50% of the tax. I will give you a 12-month stay. So a stay petition has to be given in that way. Now, how do you file a stay petition? We discussed what a stay petition is and how it works, but how do you file it? You have to file a stay petition in an affidavit. It's a stamp paper document and you have to file as an affidavit. As I said, always file your stay petition with the assessing officer also and with the CIT appeals also, or at the ITAT case itself, and request that the assessee will not be treated as an assessee in default. Now, one thing you can do to show that you are a genuine person, you have a genuine case, and the example that I gave you, it's an adverse order. I am confident on appeal it will be given in my favor because I have not collected anything. There is an addendum. The addendum has not been considered by the assessing officer. She is saying the township has been sold. I am able to prove that the township has not even been constructed, let alone sold. So I am strong case I have. So when I file my stay petition, I also file a petition asking for an early hearing. That is, I am saying, Your Lordship, I want some time to pay the tax. I want a stay petition, but I feel the case is strongly in my favor. Hence, please give me an early hearing also, and I will prove it to you. So, normally your hearing takes 3 to 4 months. From the date you file the appeal, from 3 to 4 months it takes for them to post the hearing. So, when you request for an early hearing, they'll feel confident in giving you a stay. Because if they're going to file the appeal today and I say you can give me the hearing next week, the judges who are sitting on that stay petition have the confidence that only 1 week stay, you will not cheat, you will not run away. 1 week is not a big interest loss also, so they can wait for 1 week. So demonstrate, if it's a genuine case where you're going for a stay, demonstrate that you deserve a stay by asking for an early hearing. I've covered most of these points here that we're discussing, stay of demand. Another important point is, if you go for a stay petition and the stay is rejected, can you go on appeal against the rejection of the stay? You cannot. You cannot go on appeal against rejection of the stay. You only can go on a writ to the High Court in case you feel you have a prima facie case. We have discussed these points already. These are the powers of the CIT appeals. We have already discussed all of this. Anyway, I'll just share it here along with respective case laws, so you can always go through it at your convenience. I will share this presentation with you at the end of the program. Okay. Now, this is a very important point here. The second point here: should an assessee buy peace? Say that you have this issue where you go on an appeal, or you don't go on an appeal at the assessment stage. You just admit the income and you say that, here, I admit this income. What is the reason? I don't want to go into the issues. I just want to buy peace. I don't want to get into all these debates, all this income tax nonsense. I don't want to. I'll just pay the tax. That's all. Now, should I go on an appeal in this case, or should I surrender an income saying I want to buy peace? I'll give you an example of a case that we handled, where the assessee basically, he said he is not going to go on appeal because he is buying peace. What happened? The assessing officer, he said, okay, you just pay the tax, it's fine. Assessee paid the tax and he left it. He thought, okay, no other issues will come back to me. But within 3 months, that assessing officer was transferred. A new assessing officer came in the same ward. He was going through all the past cases. He saw, what is this case? Assessee has admitted the income. Then he is saying that he wants to buy peace, so he has not fought the case. He has paid the tax, but no penalty has been initiated. Questions are raised whether you can raise the issue of where can a penalty be levied on the assessee where he says he wants to buy peace. This issue went again all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the department made a submission there, which the Supreme Court agreed with. Department said, we are not in the business of this buy peace. We are not selling peace. We are an administrative authority. So don't come and use that excuse of buy peace. If you have a genuine case, fight it out or pay the taxes and face the music. If you have to levy a penalty or you have to prosecution, then deal with that. Otherwise, if you have a strong case and you have a genuine case, prove that, go on an appeal or make a submission. Don't simply not do anything and say, I didn't do anything because I wanted to buy peace. So whenever your client, or if you're a business person, avoid using that as a reason. Never say buy peace. Try and fight out the case always. Your CIT appeals procedure, I'll just broadly discuss this since we're running out of time. I'll quickly cover this and then certain aspects of the ITAT also. Now, procedure of CIT appeals is different from the ITAT. When it comes to your CIT appeals, it's a closed room. It's a closed room. You're one-on-one with the CIT appeals. He has the power to call the assessing officer also. But normally, since it's within the department itself, they don't call the assessing officer. The CIT appeals itself acts on their behalf. So the CIT appeals is very much part of the department. So they are persons who were earlier assessing officers. They've now been promoted to become a CIT appeals person. So they are hearing the case, and you can make any submissions across the table itself to them. But when it comes to your ITAT has been constituted by the Ministry of Law and the Ministry of Justice, which means they don't come in the four corners of the income tax. It is completely different judges, completely different procedure. And your ITAT is an open court. If you look at this picture, this is what the ITAT looks like. In the picture on the right hand side, you can see that elevated platform where 3 chairs are there, red color chairs. That is where the judges sit. And here on the left hand side picture is where whoever the assessee or the assessing officer, whoever wants to appear or represent their cases, they are standing there. Hence, it is a public court. Whoever wants to come and argue their case, or whoever wants to come and view the arguments, they can come. So very often you will find in the ITAT courts, you'll have journalists, you'll have other people who are coming to see important cases. So if you're doing an actor's case, or you're doing a politician case, or you're doing a very big company, a Google or Vodafone, all these cases, you'll have journalists who are sitting inside and listening to the case so that they can write down short notes. They'll publish it in the paper or on Facebook or something immediately also. So that is how an ITAT works. It is an open court, anybody can come, as opposed to the CIT appeals, where only the assessee and the assessing officer or the CIT appeals, only they will be present. Now, when it comes to the ITAT, there are specific things called a court craft. A court craft. What do I mean by court craft? It is just like how you see in the movies when you go to the High Court or the Supreme Court, you will see how they'll be arguing, Your Honor, Your Lordship. That is expected from you. So you have to address the judge as Your Honor or Your Lordship. And you can see on the left-hand side picture where this gentleman, he is bowing. So you have to bow to the judges who are there. When they enter the courtroom, you have to bow. When you finished an argument, you have to say, much obliged, Your Lordship. So these are something called the court craft. And it's very, very important because, as I said at the start, it is important you please the judge. The more you say Your Lordship, more you bow to them, they'll also feel happy. So you also will have a stronger case when you argue against them with these sort of techniques of court craft. The next important point when it comes to this court craft is there is a uniform. Unlike your CIT appeals, where normally you go in a shirt and pant also, without a tie also, generally the CIT appeals don't have a problem with it. In your ITAT, you have a dress code, which means you have to wear a black suit, white shirt, black pants, black shoes, and a tie. If you're not wearing this, if you're a lawyer, you can wear the lawyer's robes also. But if you're not wearing any of this, then they can dismiss the case itself at this point. I have seen cases where certain chartered accountants or certain lawyers have come very casually, they've worn a suit also, but they've forgotten a tie. If the judge is in a bad mood, he will just rip your case there itself. He will say, who are you? Are you correctly representing? Do you have a power of attorney? Do you have a wakalat? If you don't have, then they will say you don't have the power to appear. Where is your tie? Do you know that you have to wear ties? Please take out the act. Please bring the income tax rules. See this rule. Read it out to me. Read it out to all the public. What does it say? It says you have to wear tie, right? Why are you not wearing a tie? You are a 65-year-old chartered accountant with so many years experience. You don't even know you have to wear a tie. So all these sort of things I have seen happen in an open court. And unfortunately, in that case, for the chartered accountant and that assessee, they did not even hear the case. They simply said, you are not in proper attire. The case dismissed. Case dismissed. So it's a very sad situation where you are losing the client's case because you forgot to wear a tie. So when it comes to the ITAT, you have to very seriously follow the dress code and what is called the court craft. Ensure that you follow all of this to ensure that at least you have a chance to fight the case and not lose the case on something as flimsy and as small as not wearing a tie or not wearing a coat. When it comes to the form of filing your ITAT appeal, as I said, at the CIT appeal stage, you have to file a Form 35. That's an electronic form that you file at the CIT appeal stage. But when it comes to your ITAT, it is not an electronic form. It is still a physical form only. It is called a Form 36, where you have to detail out on what section you're on appeal, against which order you're aggrieved by, why you're on appeal, and what are the other details, who's the person who passed the order, what date you received, etc. All basic details only. When it comes to your ITAT, all you have to do is file a grounds of appeal. You don't have to prepare a fresh statement of facts. Whatever earlier statement of facts you gave to the CIT appeals, that will continue. If you want, you can prepare a grounds of appeal with additional grounds also. Maybe you are aggrieved by something the CIT appeals did. So that also you can include in the grounds of appeal here. Regarding the challan, we already discussed where the maximum amount, where in case of the ITAT is rupees 10,000. When it comes to the CIT appeals, it's a mere 1,000 rupees only. Now, rectification of mistake, I already discussed this again. Then it's the CIT appeals and there is a mistake in his order, or let's say it's an ex parte order. Then in that case, the only remedy that you have is to go on appeal against that order to the ITAT. But when it comes to the ITAT itself, you have something called section 254 subsection 2, where it allows you to rectify an error apparent on record. So if there is a mistake or there's an ex parte order, that is I not there, without my presence itself they have passed the order against me, then I can file a miscellaneous appeal requesting them to restore the appeal, saying that it was a genuine case why I could not appear. There was a death in my family, there was a funeral, or I was out of station. Despite I gave the adjournment, it was not considered. Hence, I humbly request you to please consider that. So I may ask for that. Now that is a rectification of a mistake by the tribunal. They have the power to rectify their own mistake. So the same judges, whoever was sitting on your case, who dismissed your case, they will sit on the case for the rectification or for the restoration appeal. Jurisdictional decisions. This is a question I get asked every time I speak on this topic across the southern region. I've spoken across India also. And the one most common thing is, I have this case in my favor, but they did not accept it. There's a case that is the exact same facts in my case. It is passed by the Delhi High Court or by the Delhi ITAT, but they are not following it in Chennai or they are not following it in Bangalore. What do I do? Now, what is critical to understand here is only jurisdictional decisions are binding. What does that mean? When there is a decision by the Supreme Court, it is applicable across all courts in India. Whether you're a high court, whether you're ITAT, whether you're a assessing officer, whatever it is, CIT appeals, a Supreme Court decision is binding on everybody. When it comes to the High Court decision, it is binding on that state or that jurisdiction of that High Court, whoever comes in that jurisdiction, that state is binding or bound by that decision. So if I have a favorable decision by the Madras High Court, then all of Tamil Nadu can comfortably rely on that decision without any fear. But when it comes to an ITAT decision, again it becomes subjective. That ITAT, you will think, like I said, how jurisdictional high court is binding on everyone in that state. You may think sometimes that when I say an ITAT decision, Chennai ITAT decision is in my favor, I am appearing in Chennai ITAT only. Does that mean the Chennai ITAT decision, I can just simply rely on it? While logically, yes, what you must remember is that it is not the institution that is passing the order, it is the persons of that institution. So you have to be careful here. If you are sitting before a judge in Chennai who did not pass that order, but has a divergent view to that order, maybe he was in Delhi before now, maybe on the same issue he has already argued in Delhi, then if you see his order in Delhi, it may be a different order from what is followed in Chennai. You cannot simply rely on the Chennai case. You have to strategize. You have to use his Delhi order, or if you're feeling safer, take an adjournment. Hence, as far as our issues are concerned, Supreme Court is binding everywhere. Jurisdictional High Court is binding on that jurisdictional ITAT. Your other cases, if I have a favorable case in Mumbai, I have a favorable case in Delhi, can I rely on that? I can definitely rely on that, but then I cannot say that it is accepted there, therefore you should accept it. It is not binding on the Chennai ITAT. So you can use that for your persuasive argument. You can say they have also allowed, they have also allowed. Hence, I request you to allow on the same grounds. So all of these I have already discussed. Here is just a snapshot of whatever we discussed in a single page. I've tried to accommodate along with whatever fees is payable. What is the entire appeal process in just a single page window. We have some time, so I'll just quickly cover revisions also. And I think revisions will be very important for us because some of us may have had 31st March, even though we went into a lockdown because of corona cases. 31st March was that date, hot date, where you'll find a lot of 263 orders are being passed by the principal commissioners. And in some cases, they may have already got the orders. So for you, this is a very important point to discuss. So firstly, let's understand revision under section 263. When can a revision under section 263 be done? There are twin conditions actually here. If you look at the act, it says where an order is passed that is erroneous to the extent that it is prejudicial to the interests of the revenue. In those cases, 263 can be passed. What do they mean by to the extent it is prejudicial? It means there are now twin conditions that have to be satisfied if the income tax wants to invoke the revisionary power under section 263. So order must be erroneous, one. It should also be prejudicial to the interest of the revenue. What do they mean? If an order is passed by the assessing officer and it is wrong, let's say for example, in the course of the writing his order, he makes a statement that is incorrect. But that statement has no impact on the addition. That statement has no impact on how the assessment has done. It is just an incorrect statement. For example, he says the assessee is involved in dealing in steel rods, but the assessee is only involved in doing steel sheets, not rods, sheets. The commissioner, the administrative commissioner, cannot at a later say the order is erroneous. You are not dealing in steel rods, you are doing in steel sheets. So order is erroneous. Therefore, I am invoking revisionary power. No, it should be erroneous and it should be prejudicial to the interest of the revenue. So there must be some loss that the income tax is facing because of this error. Because of this error, they are facing some kind of loss. That means it is erroneous and prejudicial to the interest of the revenue. Why is this important? Why do I have to discuss this point? Because when you pass a 263 order, you are passing that order, you're sending it back to the assessing officer to again re-examine that case. So even though your period of rectification has expired, even though your period of, let's say, your 147 may have expired, if they resort to this 263, then in that case they can issue all the assessment onwards. They are starting everything afresh. They can ask for new documents, they can ask for further information from you, and it may cause some exploitation, or maybe it could disappoint the assessee. So in order to cap that, they said you must satisfy the twin conditions of erroneous and prejudicial to the interest of the revenue. So the revision, you have a time limit. It has to be done 2 years from end of the financial year in which that assessment order is passed. So revision cannot be done beyond 2 years from the end of the financial year in which that assessment order is passed. And opportunity must be given to the assessee to be heard. Now, there are few important points here as to what is the definition. So when they say here, a principal commissioner, he can do this revision under section 263 by looking at all the available records to him. What do they mean by records here? All the available records is a vague term. Does that mean he has to look at the records that were available at the time of assessment? Or can he look at any additional information that has come to light subsequent to the assessment also? So record means when the assessing or the principal commissioner has the file of the assessee on his hand, whatever is there in the file will constitute a record for that assessment year. And he can look at any of that and invoke the revisionary powers if it satisfies those two conditions. Now, there are several important decisions that I've shared here. I cannot go into all of them due to lack of time. But what I will do is I will discuss one very critical thing. Suppose it's a case that you have gone on appeal against. You have already gone on appeal against that assessment order, and you have got a decision in your favor. Can the principal commissioner again reopen that matter by doing a revision? Can he say that, yeah, I'm going on a revision, even though that appeal has come, Asi has got a favor in his order in his favor, I'm now going on a revision on that matter? In Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages, the 2011 decision, Supreme Court very categorically held that where an appeal, Asi has gone on appeal on that same issue, you cannot simply reopen that matter again and again, even though you might have the facts in your favor. Since the appeal has already decided, appellate proceedings has incurred, and the appellate authorities have given a decision in favor of the assessee, it means you cannot revise the matter again. So 263 cannot be invoked on the subject matter of that appeal. If there's anything else that is erroneous, that is prejudicial to interest of revenue, please do it. But you cannot touch whatever is given in favor of the assessee in the appeal. What is 264? If you remember, I said 264 is a remedy to the assessee from 1 year from the date on which the assessment order is communicated. If there is an error or there's something wrong, the assessee may seek revision under section 264. Now, naturally, you may ask, when 1 year from the date of the order, why will I go for 264 when I can go for rectification under section 154? The difference is under section 264, even though they're saying 1 year from the date on which the order was communicated, the commissioner, the principal commissioner, has the power to condone the delay. What does that mean? It means even if you come 7 years later, 8 years later, if you are able to explain sufficient cause, then that principal commissioner can condone the delay. So you may not have gone on appeal, you may not have filed a rectification under 154, but despite that, under 264, assessee can still find a remedy. I'll give you an example. There's a case which we handled where the assessee had made an error in filing his return of income, where he has forgotten to admit a MAT for a year. While typing out, they have missed typing 1 year, the MAT credit available to them. Then the assessee did not go on appeal in any of the years. The assessee also didn't file a rectification at the time because their CFO of the time, he had quit the job and they had multiple CFOs. So they were struggling to handle their human resources. Finally, when they got a CFO who was there steady, who was good CFO, he has been there for some time without quitting the job. He went through the documents and he found that this is an error that's missed. Because of that, the assessee has not been able to take the MAT credit in subsequent years. We filed a revision under section 264 because the due date for 154 is over. What you must understand is 154. It says you have to file a rectification within 4 years. That 4 years is a statutory provision, which means there is no condonation for rectification. So if 6 years has elapsed, I cannot go and say I want rectification under 154. It is simply not possible at all. For my appeal, we already discussed 30 days time you have for CIT appeals, 60 days time you have for ITAT. But they have the power of condonation of delay. But if you can't show sufficient cause to them, then the appeal may not be in your favor. They may dismiss it. You lose your opportunity to go for any other remedy. So under 264, you can go with the condonation of delay. But the catch under 264 is the assessee should not have gone on an appeal and the assessee waives his right of appeal. So when you file a revision under section 264, you cannot once again go on a revision or you cannot go on an appeal against the revisionary order that is being passed. So when you go for a revision under section 264, please remember you are waiving your right of appeal for that issue. I've also shared some decisions over here in the course of my presentation, along with what is the e-assessment proceedings. It's a broad, very overview. I don't have the time to go into it, so I'll not go into the specific details of the e-assessment and, of course, the various decisions that I have shared. But you can please feel free to drop me an email, or you can even send me a WhatsApp. My number is on the screen. Feel free to leave a message with me on WhatsApp. I'll be more than happy to share this presentation with you for your use. With this, I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much, Nellore branch, for giving me this opportunity to address the gathering on the issue of income tax appeals and revisions. Once again, I just want to say, if anybody wants a presentation, please just leave me a WhatsApp message or just drop me an email. I'll be more than happy to share the presentation with you. Maybe we can take a few questions before we wrap up. Thank you. Take a few questions before we wrap up. Thank you. Take a few questions before we wrap up. Thank you. I think somebody's speaker's on. Maybe they could just switch it off.
Yes.
I can hear the echo. Okay, we'll take the question on the screen. Chalapati Rao sir says that could not file appeal before the due date, that is 31st Jan, until now due to lockdown. Is this reasonable ground to condone the delay? Yeah, definitely, sir. In fact, they'll be, because of the lockdown, they'll be very open to containing any sort of delay that is there. So you can feel free to take that lockdown as the issue. So you could not file it. But the issue here is 31st Jan, you're saying. So I'm presuming you're talking about the Vivad scheme. The Vivad scheme, it is very clear. It says that you should have filed an appeal. It should have been pending before the appellate authority on 31st January, or you should have had an opportunity to file. I am receiving the order on 30th January or on 31st January. I anyway will go on appeal. Budget was there on 1st Feb. Reward scheme was announced on 1st Feb. I do not lose my opportunity just because the scheme was announced and 2 days have happened, elapsed since I got the order. So as long as I have time to file the order, if I have that 30 days time on 1st of February, then I can definitely go under the scheme. Next question, sir. If I want to file an appeal for waiving of tedious returns late filing fee, kindly educate me to file form. As I said, Lakshmana Rao sir, one requirement is when you want to go on appeal, there must be an order. You can only file an appeal against an order. You cannot file an appeal against an intention. So if there is an order here, then you can file it. If it is the late filing fees waiver, I think the government have already announced it. The finance minister came out some time back and they said it will be waived. So I'm sure the procedural aspects, they will cover it soon, sir. So we need not worry about that. Next point. Can you mention the reason for which 8 to 10 years? Actually, in that case that I was handling, the assessee had met with an accident and had died. Actually, they had died, and nobody was aware of the fact that the issue was there in income tax at all. Till suddenly they got a notice from a tax recovery officer saying that we are going to sell your house. Then suddenly they woke up, they didn't understand what was happening. When they came to me, we realized that it's a very old case and it has been pending for a very long time. And this person who was handling the case met with an accident and he passed away. So they could not go on appeal. So we filed it late. Next question, sir. So we can move on to the next question. High-pitched assessment where addition is more than twice the return, should the income tax officer has to liberally grant a stay of disputed tax. This is definitely the contentious point, as I already touched upon it in my presentation. There has to be, in my view, you have to be liberal, you have to be reasonable. The entire Income Tax Act itself is built on the fact that you are paying 30% of 100%. Unless that 100% is there, that question of paying 30% does not arise. So when you fictionally create that 100%, how am I going to pay that 30% tax and then 20% on that I have to pay for getting stay? All these issues should not come up. So in high-pitched assessments, definitely I feel the income tax should take a liberal view. I think maybe that was not the case till now. People had to keep going to the High Court on a writ petition. But I'm hoping that going forward, definitely they will consider it. Next question, sir.
Sir, next question is on the screen, sir.
Okay. Which date is to be reckoned for calculating 30 days? Received by email or physical copy? A very good question, Murali sir. Till now, it was very clear it was only physical copy. So we did not have any sort of debate at all when it came to this. So if you used to see the back of the poster, the stamp will be there. Based on that, you'll know what date they have sent it. So you could easily calculate what date you're receiving, etc. However, now what is happening is increasingly all the orders are being sent by email, and in some case email itself is not sent. What is happening is it's getting uploaded on that portal, and assessors are not getting communication that some order has come at all. Department are taking a stance that the date of uploading you have to be taking. It's your fault that you did not see, but there is an evolving issue which is happening now, where if it is sent by email, then it is considered that it is sent. But if it is uploaded on the website, Whether that itself constitutes that it is being sent is definitely a question of debate right now. We are hoping that some clarity comes on this soon.
So what about if the SC has not created any login?
If the SC is not created any login, the assessment once it's done, now everything is done computerized, the assessment. So I think they will insist that it should be created. If not, it is a physical copy, sir, how they will issue it. Otherwise, there's no,
Yes,
they
sir.
cannot upload it.
As in one case, during this demonetization, some of the cases were a misjudgment assessment because they don't know whether they receive this notices or not. So in such cases, they have raised the demand under 144 and passed the order. They don't know whether the order is issued or not. When bank people has said your account was freezed because of the income tax demands, so then only they came to know that some order has been passed on their name.
In these cases,
In this
it is
case,
a genuine case. Yeah. Yeah, in these cases, it's a genuine case where it has come to light only when the bank is issuing that freezing order or whatever they are sending the communication. In that case, only it comes to your light. So, therefore, in these cases where the assessee is not aware of the communication at all, from the date it comes to his light, that day only will be considered. Even if you file a continuation of delay, definitely the appellate authorities will consider it and they will allow it.
okay, sir. Thank you.
Why contempt of court is not invoked against assessing officer for not following jurisdictional decisions? For someone who practices regularly in ITAT, I also repeatedly ask that question sometimes, sir. It may be a little harsh, but it's definitely something we're constantly dealing with on a daily basis. We have to wait and see. I got a demand under 147 8 months ago. Till then, I'm regularly receiving notice under 156/21. Now I have deposited full amount of demand in 3 challans time to time. Okay. I think question is not there in this. Can I request a waiver of penalty? If yes, then how? It is only a simple request or something beyond that. No, when they issue your penalty notice, it will be a show cause notice. So you have to display to them why penalty should not be levied. So as long as you're able to satisfy them, uh, then I think it will be considered, sir. If AO or CIT appeals has to vacate due to transfer, what will happen? So where there is a change, maybe in the mid proceedings, the CIT appeals is transferred or the assessing officer is changed, then what is called a de novo assessment is done. That is, it is going to be done again a fresh assessment from the eyes of the new officer. Technically, they can continue where the earlier officer or the earlier commissioner left off, but normally this is not done. And the assessee has the right to ask for a de novo assessment. So a de novo assessment will be done as a fresh assessment. Whether appeal can be filed against intimation under section 143(1), which is not an order. Yes, absolutely. In fact, there are multiple cases now people are filing against the intimation under section 143(1). Sir, 143(1) is an order, but it is not an assessment. We have to be clear here. 143(1) is very much an order. Therefore, under CIT appeals, you can go, definitely you can go on appeal against that.
Sir, but in Form 35, there is no option for mentioning it, no, sir?
It is there, sir. In fact, multiple cases I have handled myself on 143(1) where we have gone on appeal.
Okay.
One village client came for suggestions. He does not have email knowledge because small employee. He got nearly 50K additions.
50
he
lakhs.
came to know 50 lakhs. Oh, additions. He came to know on freezing of bank accounts. I think we just discussed this issue also, sir. Where I think ideally, if your person is having 50 lakhs additions, and it must be the demonetization related case, because otherwise, definitely he'll have a registration. As I said to Sir Arun sir when discussing, in these sort of scenarios, definitely the day you come to note of it, from that day you will start considering the date of receipt of the order. Sir, if SC has not replied to the scrutiny notice at all due to unavoidable circumstance and he was passed ex parte, what is the remedy for the assessee now? Appeal or any other? So here appeal is probably the only remedy for you, sir, because you go under 154, it is error apparent on record, but naturally you will want to fight out the case. So if you want to fight the case, your appeal is your only solution. You may go for a 264, but generally 264 is not advised unless it's a last resort scenario, because you waive the right of your appeal. So definitely appeal is the only scenario here. You should go for an appeal in these cases. It will be considered for you. It will definitely be considered. What is the judgment of Madras High Court and Salem Sri Vilas Chit Company on e-assessment? I think this is a long issue that we can discuss for a very, very long time. Pavitra Madam will definitely discuss this. You can drop me an email and I will share my views with it regarding this issue. Let's move on to the next question, sir. Appeal filed and after 1/2/2020 with continuation of delay will be admissible. No, sir, it will not. If you have filed it before and there is a delay before, that is, you have filed an appeal maybe on 31st January, there is a delay and you have filed it with continuation of delay, then that will be considered. But you cannot file an appeal after 1/2/2020 with a continuation of delay requesting that it be condoned so that you can come onto the scheme. That will not be allowed, sir. Does all the applications filed with CIT appeals, will it be accepted or chances of rejection will be there? They cannot reject an appeal. They will give you an opportunity to correct it if there is an error. If let's say maybe instead of let's take ITAT, because CIT appeals has now become an automated form. We are filing it online, so it is very straightforward in terms of who is signing, all that. It's all digital signature or an OTP, so you cannot make a mistake there. But in ITAT, it's still a physical form, so somebody has to sign. So instead of signing one page, the person has missed out signing the page. Or let's say instead of him signing the page or in the place where he should sign, you have signed it. Does that mean the appeal is defunct? It does not. You will be given an opportunity to rectify it. So when it comes to the CIT appeals, also the same logic only will be followed. If it is a rectifiable defect, then it will be given an opportunity to rectify it. So unless there is a condonation of delay, which means that your delay cannot display a sufficient reason for the condonation, then in those cases only rejection can come. Otherwise, it will not be rejected. Is it the last question, sir? Okay. So thank you very much to all the viewers and all the watchers. Thank you once again, Nellore branch, for giving me this opportunity. And as I said, people can feel free to leave an email or a message with me. I'll be happy to share the presentation over to the MC members of Nellore branch.
Thank you, sir, for giving a wonderful presentation. I take this opportunity to thank all the members who have participated actively in the today's webinar. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.